the office chair.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is The Grass is Greener on WXRW 104.1 FM in Milwaukee. I am the host of the program, Gary Grass. With me is my co-host, Babette Gruneau.
Hi, and today we're very happy to have Ihsan Atta, a local businessman and a property owner in Milwaukee here, and someone who's been active in the Palestinian community. We knew him years ago at UWM.
That's right.
And so, welcome, Ihsan Atta.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
We wanted to talk to you about an incident that happened at one of your properties. I believe there was a mural that you had that maybe you want to, mention what it was about and what happened to it.
Sure. Let me first preface by saying, and maybe a lot of the listeners
please.
know already, that a lot of my buildings I've used to put murals on, and the murals always depicted something that was relative to the time, so issues that were taking place. And it began during the George Floyd time. So the most well-known mural is the George Floyd mural that's on the building on Holton and North. And then we had a Breonna Taylor mural that was placed on Holton and Locust. And then that same building on Holton and Locust, on the alley line, we have a mural with like a ton of different individuals that in one way or another
I know that
were active in social justice issues. So it's something that I like doing. And after we did it with the George Floyd, just seeing the response from the community coming together on it, artists from all over coming and partaking, and just seeing people from all over coming to visit the mural, to see the mural, to take pictures. We've actually had weddings take place. We had music videos take place in front, predominantly the George Floyd one, because there's a parking lot there as well. So pretty cool. So with regards to this mural,
let me just say, while you're talking about these other murals, let me just say, one of the things that I see that's like kind of a recurring theme on Twitter is Palestinians haven't done enough for the black community. What have people in Gaza done for us? And it just seems striking, it just seems like ridiculous. And so I'm just noting here that here's an example of someone who, Palestinian member of the community who's putting up all these Black Lives Matter type murals, and it's just like, that's really good, I think. And I think it puts the lie to the whole kind of ridiculous argument.
Yeah, listen, I'll say that, for some people, they may not be knowledgeable of the actual cooperation between the black community and the Palestinian community, because we have shared struggles. And as you guys may recall from back during the UWM days, the Palestinian organization worked very closely with the Black Student Union and the African Student Union.
Yes.
Once again, because we had shared struggles. We were committed and working with them during apartheid South Africa days.
Right.
And you have the famous quotes from Nelson Mandela that says, nobody is free, or we're not free until the Palestinians are free. You have quotes from Desmond Tutu, who they always made comparisons of apartheid South Africa with the Palestinian struggle, to a point and to a degree where they actually, many of them have said, is worse than the situation going on with the Palestinians now, is worse than that was going on in South Africa. More recently,
one of the things we did at UWM is we were the first organization. The one I was in was the first organization to use student money to sponsor international travel for student organizations, and we went and sent election observers to El Salvador. And then with that precedent set, they brought a delegation over to Burma to look at human rights in Burma. And one of the people that was advising that group was a guy named Zarni, who is now seen as this genocide expert. And he described Gaza as this insane ecosystem where every different possible kind and form of genocide is being experimented on. And it's, it's just, I remember at UWM just not even feeling like, like we didn't have like little channeled movements, right? We had like this sort of quasi coalition, right?
Mm-hmm.
You guys did your thing, we did our thing, but we always saw each other at events.
Well,
right?
and I think
always cooperating.
We
on
cooperated
things.
and we co-sponsored one another's
Yes.
events. Once again, because we all had shared struggles, and they all stemmed with injustices taking
Right.
place, whether it was in Africa, whether it was in Palestine, whether it was in Central
Latin
America,
America,
Latin
right.
America. So there's a common struggle, and to this day, I mean, I was going to say, the end of last year, we actually brought the grandson, as a Palestinian organization, brought the grandson of Nelson Mandela to Milwaukee
So
to
you
speak.
Zweli
were the folks who
Valile.
did it.
Yeah, we-
Zweli Valile Mandela.
so- at that, yeah.
We know him. He was on our show when he was here.
Oh, was he? Okay,
Yeah.
so he actually spoke at
Yeah.
Turner Hall. He was brought by
Yeah.
Wow.
by a Palestinian organization, and yeah. So it's people may just be unaware, and interestingly, and I'll tell you why people are unaware, because there was no media attention whatsoever in mainstream media. I mean, you have a very significant individual. Who's the grandson of like an icon of social justice, of struggle,
Right.
and there's absolutely no media.
You'd think the
given
journal
to
would
him.
have been all over that.
Well, you would think that, but who and kind of controls the narratives in the media right now? And when this individual, when Mandela came to speak, of course he's going to speak about Palestinian rights and compare it to apartheid South Africa and what was going on. And that's just a topic that a lot of people don't want out there because they want to keep hush hush about it so they can continue to do the atrocities that they're doing against an innocent population.
And other people just feel uncomfortable with it, so they don't want to deal with the topic.
Well, listen, if you feel uncomfortable about it, then don't complain about anything because
Right.
There's a lot of things that are uncomfortable. You can't resolve, anything if you're going to say, "Oh, I feel uncomfortable about it." If there's
But
a
you hear
genocide
that a
taking
lot.
place,
You
I mean, if you
hear that
say
a lot.
that, well, I always say, I mean, there's the meme that's been, it's been trending in social media for some time now, where it says, if you want to know what you would have done during the time of slavery, or if you want to know what you would have done during the civil rights era, or if you want to know what you would have done during the Holocaust, look at what you're doing now. So if you're saying, well, I'm not doing anything because I'm uncomfortable, well, that's kind of reflective on
Right.
how strongly you feel about social justice issues. I mean, injustice is an uncomfortable thing. We're entitled people. We're fortunate, for the most part, that we can live day-to-day lives where we have food and water.
Right.
And we're not going through the struggles that a lot of these individuals are going through. So who's, really in discomfort?
I don't.
houses aren't being bombed.
I would probably only dispute the word individuals because if you get when you see this news coming from Gaza, it's like really is being suffered as a community, and the whole community is coming together. It's almost like they've replaced individual suffering with collective suffering. Everything is the
It's
whole group.
collective because it's collective punishment.
Right.
I mean, they're not targeting. That's why they refer to it as ethnic cleansing. I mean, they're trying to wipe out the entire population, and it's not just in Gaza. It's happening quietly and slowly in the West Bank as well.
Right, right. My point was just that no one is forced to suffer it alone there because the entire community is there
Is suffering,
with them,
correct.
suffering with them, and
Yeah.
everyone is sharing their resources. And it's,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, not just sharing resources. I mean, it's to a point where families are being wiped out. Children are being orphaned and being adopted by neighbors or relatives because they don't believe in the adoption process. They don't want to send the children outside,
Away, yeah.
because they're very family oriented. They're just have strong connections, and so if a neighbor has to take and adopt the child of another neighbor who was murdered, they're going to do that, and that's what's happening. And so the community has basically adopted one another, has helped one another. Obviously the Israeli government, I don't know if you can refer to it as a government, but has openly said we're not going to allow any water in, we're not going to allow any food, any medicine, anything. So people are helping each other in whatever
Yeah.
way they can.
Yeah, I wanted to say, for some reason, it just occurred to me, your sister is Janan Najib, who has also been on our program.
Okay.
In fact, and your brother has also been on our program. I think this is
wow.
your first time on
This
the
is
show.
although like I pass it every week because I, stop
Oh,
at
right,
places over
right.
here. And so I literally walk by here every week. And
Wow.
I mean, I've always known it was a
Well, now
station
you-
here, but I've
you're
never,
welcomed
I've
in.
never been here. So thank you for having me.
No,
No,
we're glad to have you.
Well, we wanted this news was on the mural, right? So we wanted to
Correct.
talk a little bit about that mural. So what was this particular mural depicting? That was, that mural.
Yeah, so it's this mural. She's
Okay.
oh, that mural. I'm pulling it up for the listeners. I'm pulling it up on
yeah.
my phone because I
Yes.
wasn't sure if you guys had
Yes.
seen
Well, this is radio, so no one can actually see it.
Yeah.
But if you go to when the show is done, if you want to go to like our page on River West Radio for the show, I've got that image on my laptop. I can
Yeah.
stick that up and
Well,
use that
if
as
you
the
can
icon
go-
for the show. Yeah.
You can go, and I would probably encourage you to go to TMJ4's website, only because as we continue this discussion, we'll probably talk about the Common Council press release. My response was published fully on TMJ4's website.
Okay.
TMJ4 also published the entirety of the press conference that we had yesterday as
very
well.
good.
So they've been very good about, obviously when they're on air, they can't show everything or talk about everything, but at least they put it on the online so that you are able to, if you generally
I
want
at
to
least
learn.
saw
So-
part of the press
Yeah.
conference.
So that was Monday, September 16th. Just for anyone who
Yeah.
may listen to this on some other time, not live. So.
So, how did the mural begin?
Well, why don't you just
And what was it
say what
about?
the mural says on it for the.
So I'll describe the mural as best as I can, and understand that for all the murals that I've done or have commissioned or just requested, because they weren't all commissioned murals. Some of them, like the artwork with George Floyd and the alley line, I just wanted I wanted to do something. I was very specific about wanting a mural of George Floyd, but I left the rest of it to be an open canvas for the artist to paint whatever they felt they wanted to paint. I didn't want to get involved in any way of obstructing their creativity or their feelings. It was an outlet for the community through art on my
Yeah.
building.
Right.
So for this particular mural, I had been in contact with some of the artists, and it was kind of long overdue. I had been discussing it since early in the year, probably at the beginning of the year. We had different conversations, and it finally came to fruition. But ultimately, I had told the artist, I said, I want to basically put something that's going to be attention grabbing, that's going to reflect the genocide that's taking place against the Palestinian people, specifically in the Gaza Strip, and now also going on into the West Bank. And I had different images that I had seen online. One of the images had the swastika within the Star of David. So I thought, and you guys will probably recall during the UWM days.
I was just thinking
banner
of that,
that we
yes.
had. So I thought,
There was a controversial banner.
Yeah, got a lot of
The
attention.
Star of David transforming
Evolving into
a swastika.
actually the swastika evolving into the Star of
Oh,
David.
okay.
Okay.
And I remember that.
It said that 4 decades of evolution, or the evolution of Israel, or something like
Right,
that.
and that was a while back,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
even at that time there was this kind of evident trend, and they came and ripped it down, right? That was what happened.
They tried. Actually, I want to say they tried to rip it down. I think, and
It was
then
a
the
long
university
time
wanted
ago.
to take it down, and I think did, and then we filed a lawsuit, and then they put it back up, but then they put a disclaimer up in the concourse, because they always had banners. Because every week,
Yes.
if you guys recall, every week we would have different banners just showcing the
Right.
atrocities being committed against the Palestinians. And different organizations did different banners based on their missions.
For people that know UWM, that was a completely different era because back
Yeah, it
then, all the student groups made their own banners.
Yeah.
They didn't have someone who did them all up.
Well, we
for
didn't have
you.
computers. There was no internet
Right.
at the time.
Right.
We didn't have computers except for the one that was in the student association office, and that was just for like word processing,
Right.
basically. So.
I remember once I was making a banner and I was making this picture you've got a projector and you put an
Projector
image in
over it, yeah.
and you make these images, and this was like refugees in El Salvador. And
Yeah.
it's like, and I did a really beautiful banner, which I did in like these magic markers, and it seeped through onto the wall of the meeting room, and they had to come in and repaint
Yeah,
it
that's
because there are these like haunting refugee images on the
I mean, I
wall.
remember we'd have the overhead
Yeah.
projectors.
Yeah.
We'd be on the ground. We'd be, taping it up to
That's
different
right.
walls or boards. I mean, it was a different time, as you said. But it was, I should say I do miss those times. I mean,
yeah.
it brought people together.
It
You
did,
worked
yeah.
together
Right.
on stuff. I mean, you needed other people to help because it wasn't
definitely.
something you can just,
Yeah.
mock together.
You have
on
a little
computer.
banner making party. Although I did that one particular banner on my own, so I think Babette was there.
Yeah.
She was there for moral support. No.
Yeah, but the reason
Certainly
why
not
the reason
for
why I
my
had suddenly remembered
artistic
your
ability.
sister a few months ago is because I remember it was because when we were trying to set up this program, we sort of set this up on the last minute. And you ran down here at the last minute,
Yes.
right? And we put out the invitation to your sister as well, and she said, "Oh, she can't because she's in Racine." 'Cause
They're
they have-
doing a call for a ceasefire, I think, with the
Yeah.
Racine.
Yeah,
Racine
and
Common
it's like
Council or
it's
something?
like you're all so active and you're running around doing all these things, and it's very impressive. I think.
It is good to see.
I don't find it impressive because I feel like I'm not doing anything or not enough at least. And I definitely will not compare myself to, the true activists that are out there that are committing their day-to-day life to causes. I support all causes of, where there's injustice, but I'm lacking, and I think, it's unfortunate. I think even the people that are working tirelessly feel like they're lacking sometimes
Well,
as well
you
because
were
it's such
doing
a
a
tough
lot.
it's such a tough
Well,
battle.
Let me say I wish there was a lot more going on that would really make me feel like I'm not doing enough, right?
Yeah.
If there was, because I think people do whatever the people around them are doing, and
Sure.
if the other people around them are doing a lot more stuff, they'll feel like oh my God, all my friends are going to Gaza and I'm not doing anything. The least I can do is like chain myself to the White House fence and get arrested, or But we're at the point where it's like it's like I'm refusing to eat McDonald's,
Yeah,
so-
but listen, but that refusal to eat McDonald's or that refusal to go to Starbucks has significantly affected those companies who have been
Cost them
supporting
a little bit of
financially,
money, yeah.
apartheid regimes. It's costing them. They recognize the cost. And if you go back and look at apartheid South Africa, it was the boycott campaign that
Yes.
made such a significant impact that helped force that change to rid South Africa of apartheid. In addition to the I want to say armed struggle of the ANC, because when you have individuals and societies that are so brutal the way they were in South Africa, the way they are in Israel against the Palestinians, peaceful means doesn't always work. So it's a combination of peaceful means and a combination
resistance.
of resistance.
Yeah.
And it's an unfortunate need to have, both.
Yes.
Right, and
would agree with that.
I'm not going to disagree with that. I will say that I've said before, because we've also been here talking about peace sometimes,
Yeah.
right? That there needs to be someone who's constantly an advocate, no matter how ridiculous it sounds like, for the nonviolent approach, right?
I'm an advocate for the nonviolent approach, but I will tell you without a doubt that I am also a very strong advocate for resistance. And the reason being is because peaceful means has never worked for the Palestinian struggle, and it won't work for the Palestinian struggle, unfortunately. So it has to be a combination of the
Well,
two.
I mean, you've tried and tried and tried and tried,
Exactly.
and and Israel goes out and assassinates the most peaceful, most moderate, most
Well,
compromising people too.
let me
It's
touch on the peaceful
Yeah.
means. So let's go back to 2018, the Great March of Return. For 1 year, every week, the people of Gaza would peacefully march along the apartheid wall, or the basically with signs and
I
to say
remember
they
hearing
want their
about that,
freedom,
yeah.
they want, their right to self-determination, they want to lift the siege that was on them. Peaceful for 1 year, every Friday. There were hundreds or thousands that were shot and killed. There was disabled individuals that were shot. There was medical personnel that was shot, press that was shot. I mean, some of the famous ones that were shot and killed was like Razan, who was an ambulance person, because despite it being a peaceful march, or if you want to say protest, they knew there was going to be shootings. They were getting sniped. So they were risking, all those people were going out there every week for a year, risking their
Risking their
lives,
lives, yeah.
knowing that they may be the next person to get shot and killed. And that's what happened to a lot of them. But that was all peaceful. So
Well,
if
yeah,
this is what's going to happen.
You think about the
by
civil
peaceful
rights
means.
movement when all the people were marching peacefully with signs, and they'd stick the dogs on them and the hoses
and
on them,
the bats and the
yeah, and there'd be all the brutality,
Yeah.
and it really it changed people's opinions, because that got covered in the press and everyone paid attention to that, and it was shocking to people, and it moved the dial on that.
Even the encampments. Let's look at the encampments
Yeah.
that took place during the school seasons,
Yeah.
or school season last year. UCLA. I mean, there was a mob of individuals that was financed by some Zionist individuals.
Really?
What's that comedian guy? I forgot what his name is now, because he's not that funny to me. But anyways, his wife had financed part of it. They literally financed this mob to go out and beat a lot of the people that were in the
Oh, my
encampments.
goodness.
And it was on the news. And the police were just, the police in California were just there watching it. And
Yeah,
they let
there-
it go on for
There was
at
one
least
group
an
that
hour.
threw firecrackers.
Seinfeld. It was Seinfeld's wife.
Oh, yeah,
she was
that's
one of the
right. That's
she was
right.
one of the people that
Right.
paid for
Wow.
help finance it.
Right, and there was another case where they were throwing firecrackers into the
Yeah, I mean,
encampment.
then and you have the results of
And now you've got like these armed militias roaming the University of Texas, right?
Yeah.
The Zionist thugs.
Zionist
with guns.
thugs with guns trying to
Yeah.
intimidate. The
Yeah.
problem is they don't realize that they can't intimidate us. I mean, our people are getting shot every day. Our people are getting arrested, for nothing, never charged, imprisoned without charge for months, if not years at a time. They haven't learned that we're not going to stand down. We're a resilient people. We're a people that will stand for our rights. And if that entails us dying for our rights, we will do that. I mean, the belief is, basically, we rather die with dignity than live under this oppression.
Right. That's Emiliano Zapata, right? That was his. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I thought it was bad enough when the various universities sick the cops on the students who were encamped, but to hear that there were people from outside busting up these encampments.
Yeah, the encampments
And
were
not-
always peaceful.
Yeah.
They were all
And the
peaceful.
police not stopping that. Not stopping those who are
And
coming
the
in.
universities crack down on the encampments rather than
Yeah.
on the people attacking them.
Exactly.
Right.
And I mean, this isn't something that's uncommon. We shouldn't be surprised by it. I will say that in Milwaukee, at least, the police didn't
Yeah,
come.
that
However,
was-
I will tell you that I believe the university contacted the Milwaukee Police Department. The Milwaukee Police Department told them there's no crime that we're aware of taking place. That's not us for us to deal with. I think the chancellor at the time, and I don't know the specifics, so I don't want to speak for the university students who are aware of what's going on and what went on. But I will say, because I was at the encampments almost every day,
Yeah.
that they were very peaceful.
saw all
the
the-
police,
all
you
the
know,
work you were
did
doing.
not get involved.
Mm-hmm.
But as a result, the influence of the Zionist donors resulted in the chancellor basically losing his position. Now, whether they announced it as him resigning because he wanted to go back to teach or whatever it is, I think anyone with a brain will recognize why he's no longer the chancellor.
They were really disappointed that there was no bloodshed at UWM.
Yeah, you know, it's well, I don't want to say the university was disappointed, but I think the Zionist community was
Well,
definitely disappointed.
yeah.
Someone was
Yeah.
disappointed about
Yeah.
and put pressure on.
Yeah, like Hillel, because I mean Hillel was definitely disappointed.
Because I mean, because the UWM administration resolved it peacefully, and then they got into trouble with the Board of Regents and with the Zionist community here, with like what's wrong with this administration? Making a deal with these people. It's like, don't they understand that they're terrorists? It's like they're terrorists.
They're students.
I mean, listen,
They're
these are-
concerned
the
students.
problem is,
My God, they slept on the lawn. Do you know what that does to the grass?
listen, what happens and what the problem is a lot of times when you have situations like this is you have people that start to instigate problems or start to like try to change the narrative or deflect from why people are doing what they're doing. So if the students, for example, are peacefully protesting the genocide, they're wanting their university to divest because they don't want their funds being invested in companies that are supporting genocide
Right.
or supporting, ethnic cleansing or violation of any rights for that matter. So then you have the people that they don't want you to know about that. And I'll say specifically the Zionist community that doesn't, want any awareness being, brought up. And so now they try to put something else out. And it's usually something very ridiculous, but it's something that gets people all up in arms. But if people would just stop for a second and really listen and think, does this even make sense?
They'd realize,
it doesn't.
no, it
They'd
doesn't.
realize it's stupid. But what it is, it's kind of like the whole, screaming fire inside a theater. Like you just get up and run without like stopping for a second and going, wait, where's the fire? Is there really
Right.
a fire or someone, just messing with us? So that's what it is, unfortunately.
You had a lot of support, or the students had a lot of support from groups like Jewish Voice for Peace. And that was really good to see.
Yeah, Jewish Voice for Peace, not in our name. So, listen, there's so many. I think the Jewish community is not represented in the media here. Dr. Rachel Ida Buff, I'm sorry,
Yes.
spoke yesterday at the press conference, and it was great because all the media was there,
Right.
and she told them, she said, you guys keep going to these Zionist Jewish organizations. They don't represent us. They're not leaders. They're not quote unquote Jewish leaders. They never come to Jewish Voice for Peace, people of conscience, people with morals, people with values. They just go directly to Zionist racist organizations like the Jewish Federation or ADL. And, unfortunately, those are the ones that kind of have power and influence in the community because that's where the money is. And she made it very clear, like, if you want the opinion and you want to know the true opinion of the Jewish community, you need to also come and ask us.
I think she's great, by the way.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
awesome.
I saw her at the Bosses Gala, right?
Okay, yeah.
I saw your brother there too.
Yeah.
It was a very diverse crowd.
Yes.
It was very nice. But let's pull it back to the mural because we're about halfway through the show so far.
Okay, we'll go to the mural.
I just want to make sure we get to it before we end.
Yeah.
That's why we're
Listen,
here.
the fact that we went to school together, we could go. I mean, I think it's now.
We can
It's
go
almost
on
like a
and on.
reunion. We can
Yeah.
go
Right.
on and on. Yeah, for
No,
sure.
that's true. We had the same thing when we had Sam Tracy on during the RW 24.
Oh,
here,
okay, yeah.
Right. I don't know if you remember Sam from back then.
The name sounds familiar. I would have to see his face to probably remember.
Yeah.
He tried to stop the building of the business school and
Oh, okay.
threw dirt all over the
Yeah,
guys who
they had
were.
the groundbreaking, and he was like, they had this big pile of dirt and the silver shovels or gold shovels, and he was like walking up and down in the dirt, it's like, keep warm, burn the rich.
Listen, that's what
He got
college
fired
is
from his
for.
position.
Yeah.
I mean, that really is what college is for.
He got
People.
he got fired from his position as editorial editor at the UW Post because
Oh
he
my
was too
God.
radical.
Oh, that's hilarious. But listen, you know, the universities, we had the ability to do that though back then. I mean, there was the understanding that university students, that's the time, that's the age, that's the environment that you get to ask questions, that you get to challenge things, that you know, not just find yourself, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, but you find causes, and
Right.
it's a time where you can ask questions that maybe when you're out in the real world outside of school may
Can
be
be harder.
uncomfortable or difficult to ask because you might get labeled right away. But when you're in a university setting, you have that ability, and it's a time where you're educating yourself about so many different things. You're able to go to so many different events because of the diversity of the student organizations, the diversity of the student body. So it's really a wonderful time. And it's unfortunate that they're trying to
It is.
stifle that
They're,
right now.
They're clamping down, though,
Yeah.
now on those student
Yeah.
organizations. I mean, some have been suspended.
Based on what? You know,
Yeah,
that's the
based
thing.
on
Yeah.
what? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
they
they-
were said that they wouldn't take actions against them for being camped out on the lawn, and yet they have.
They don't have those banner spaces anymore. They don't have the kiosks anymore.
They don't have
the
student
bulletin
orgs
boards.
offices upstairs anymore.
Yeah,
They don't?
No.
Oh.
Now all the student organizations offices are off campus. I went
That
up
is
there
shocking.
not too long ago, and then I was talking to my nephew, and I was like, "Where's the offices?" He's like, "We don't have offices there." I think there might be
Oh
one or
my
two,
gosh.
but yeah, they're
Yeah.
all kind of off campus or something.
Yeah, I remember when they removed the SA out of there and they moved some of the other places down onto the first floor, and it was like
Yeah, it's
like,
different.
because you had that little group where they were all together, right?
Which was nice because you could
Yeah.
go like they were literally door to door, you know,
Yeah,
and so you
exactly.
could
Right.
and the camaraderie.
Campus Organization for Israel was literally next door to the Palestinian Human
It
Rights
was,
Committee,
yeah,
right?
yeah, that's right.
Um,
But everyone, well, I don't want to say they respect this stuff because they would always tear stuff off of our,
Yeah, yeah.
our
the
little
famous
board.
door wars where the people would
Yeah.
tear things off of each other.
But,
I got in trouble once for tacking something up to a door.
Yeah.
right? It's like
But we shared office space. I mean,
Right.
GUPS had, with the General Union
We
Palestinians
wouldn't have
was
known
with
you
was
except
with
we
Latin
shared
America
an
Solidarity
office.
Committee, which was with
Exactly.
animal rights, if you
Yes,
remember. So
yes,
there
I
was
do.
three
And-
organizations,
well, and it's-
diverse organizations.
It was two on one side and two on the other side
Yeah.
in a larger suite. So it's
Yes.
like there was the Jobs with Peace was in
Jobs
there,
with- yeah.
and the Mobilization for Survival, which is
Well,
later became
because it
two sections.
shifted
moved,
over
it
the years.
shifted,
Yeah,
It shifted
yeah.
over the years because at one point there was animal rights was in
That's
there,
true.
and so it shifted, and it is what it is. But it was great, and then when people started getting individual offices, we were still next door to one another, and so we would still visit each other. Our doors were open to one another.
Right.
We would throw ideas off of one another. We would
Exactly.
collaborate with one another. So it was a wonderful time actually.
Yeah.
It was. So let's hear about this mural.
Okay. So the mural. So as I mentioned before, like with the genocide that was going on, it was very important for me. I just been having a difficult time. Sorry,
That's okay.
because every day,
Yeah.
like I'm stuck on social media watching these children being blown up to pieces. All of the lies that were spread by Israel to justify attacking Gaza, the lies of rape, the lies of beheaded babies, they were all accusations.
Yeah. And they were
I mean,
wrong.
accusations that were false, but they were confessions of theirs because we have video. We have video of Palestinians being raped to a point of being raped to death. We have videos of children that have been beheaded by the bombs. We have videos of body parts strewn all over the streets.
I've seen way too many of those, and I don't have relatives
But
there.
I watch, and we're on platforms where we're watching it live, where we're watching it, and you, as much as you can't watch it, you can't turn away from
You
it.
don't.
Right.
You don't have the excuse this time that the Germans had after the Holocaust to say you just didn't know. It's like,
No.
good, just get on.
You know,
get on Twitter.
This is
it's like it's
you're
everywhere.
a live stream genocide.
Yeah.
Right.
So you feel helpless. You go to all the protests. You go to you
I mean,
talk to
yeah,
politicians.
You don't have to wait until the war is over to look at like the Nazi records because they're making up TikToks
Absolutely.
every day.
Yes.
To
And the
brag
soldiers
about
are
all the
bragging
horrible
about
things that
blowing
they're doing.
things up.
Yeah.
There's not, they're bombing hospitals with people inside of them. There's not one school or university that's left standing. There's not one hospital left that's fully functioning. And almost all of them are completely obliterated. They're bombing mosques. They're bombing churches. One of the oldest churches in the world has been bombed multiple times. What else is there to bomb? I mean, and they're clearly telling you we're going to make a parking lot out of Gaza. They're clearly saying we're going to not allow anything in. They were already not allowing much in, where they were literally doing caloric intake of the population to minimize how much food they would allow prior to
Essentially
October.
starvation.
Yes. It's a very stressful time and thing, and it's like you want to do something, and you want to make people aware as much as the world has become aware. Okay, as much as the world really has become aware of what's going on and become aware of the realities of what the Palestinians have been living through that we always spoke of, but they never really saw. Now they've seen it. And that's why you see all the shadow banning of accounts on social media, because the whole world is up in an uproar. They're just, the whole world is realizing the atrocities.
You want to ban TikTok
Yeah.
altogether,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not stemming from anything China related.
No.
It's
Right.
stemming from what TikTok actually did by bringing awareness of this genocide.
And I've had friends on TikTok, not on TikTok, on Facebook who've had stuff suppressed where they blurred it out or
I mean, I'm on
I've
my
had people suspended.
My
on
Facebook got
Twitter.
after 19 years got banned. I set up a new one. It got banned after 2 weeks, and I just set up a new one. My TikTok
luck.
got banned. I think at the end of last year. I'm constantly getting
Mine
like
was temporarily suspended, actually, for one of our shows.
I must be doing something terribly wrong. I must be a horrible person because that's never happened to me. All my
We're gonna have to
friends,
get you
yes.
banned. No, just joking. So I'll go back. I know I keep
Show might
digressing
do it.
from the mural. Okay,
Yeah.
so I talked to the artist. I said, hey, listen, and like I said, this has been months in discussion and planning and just scheduling and whatnot. So we sat down, we talked on a couple occasions, and then I was like, dude, we really got to get this done. Like I'm like it's just. It's too bad. Like I can't. There was kind of that hope in the back of your mind that there's going to be a ceasefire. It's going to stop.
always
And
hope.
then when you saw that it wasn't, I was like, we have to do something. So, gave him some ideas. Ultimately, if I were to describe the mural, it's a swastika inside a Star of David, and the Star of David is painted in apartheid blue to represent the Israeli apartheid flag. Then there's the wording, the irony of becoming what you once hated. It's surrounded by pictures that he beautifully painted that were actually pictures, like real pictures of real people carrying dead bodies. There's a mass grave, so there's a picture of a mass grave that he painted. There's a woman holding her dead child that was murdered and wrapped in a sheet. There's a picture of a woman fleeing because the Palestinians have been kept. They've been told to go from one area to another. Oh, this is a safe zone. But then they bomb them while they're on their way to the safe zone, and then they bomb the safe zone. So there really is no safe zone in a highly densely, populated area.
I mean, millions of Israelis are fleeing Israel, and I think I made a comment on Twitter. It's like, let them go, but maybe make them go through 1,000 miles of checkpoints first before they do.
Well, I mean, they have, listen, the fact that, they have the ability to get on an airplane safely, nothing's happened to any of them. There's also pictures of blown out, that he painted, of blown out buildings.
Leave however they want.
Yeah.
They can take all their stuff if they want.
And they can go back if they
And they
choose
can
to,
go back, yeah.
Then there's also some pictures of drones
Well,
because they
we'll
have
see.
drones.
We'll see.
Yeah.
You know,
They have
you
the
know.
drones, because this war isn't just a war of murder. It's it's a psychological war as well. So they have these drones that fly 24/7, making this loud buzzing sound.
So you
So
never
basically,
know.
you never know. You can't sleep. The children. I mean, imagine the children who are the teenagers that have been through how many I don't even want to call it a war, but I call them all massacres. This is a genocide. The other ones I call massacres, because a war insinuates that there's two parties of equal
Right,
level,
right,
or
right.
somewhat
Yeah,
equal level,
yeah.
or at least
This-
they both have an air force, or they both have tanks,
Yeah.
or they both
Yeah,
have.
right.
I've always thought
something.
the discussion of like seeking a ceasefire was really the wrong wording, because it's not like both parties putting down their arms. It's just like, tell you what,
You have small arms,
you-
hand arms
you-
that
you-
Hamas has, or
Yeah.
any of the resistance group
Yeah.
has, and then you have fighter jets,
Right.
tanks, armored vehicles. These 2,000-pound bombs that the United States
Right.
is supplying, that they're
I
dropping
mean,
on the
I mean,
heads
I'm in
of
favor. I'm in
civilians.
favor of a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. But the most important thing isn't that. It's this whole thing that's going on alongside the war, which is the genocide, which is like not really strongly connected to the war. Really, the war is just like a fig leaf to
If
cover
Israel
the
would
genocide.
cease its bombing, that
Well,
would
there's
show
no, like I
help.
said, there's no war. It's just a genocide. I mean,
There's
I would say I would never use the term war. Wording is super
occasionally
important.
you see Hamas Al-Qassam brigades will take out a tank or something, and you say
They'll
okay,
take out a tank, but they don't have a tank. That's
Right,
the
right,
difference.
right.
You'll see guys in flip-flops and sweatpants running up to a tank to put like a handmade explosive that they created themselves onto a tank, versus helicopters
Right.
or fighter jets that are bombing civilian population from 1,000 feet up in the air.
I look at it as two parallel conflicts. I look at it as a very uneven war between Israel and Hamas, which Israel is still managing to lose, and I'm looking at it as a genocide where it's Israel versus the Palestinian population, and the only thing that can stop Israel is basically the United
Stopping
States.
the U.S. aid. I'll
Yeah.
still listen. We're going to
Listen,
agree to disagree on the term war, though.
the United. I mean, it's that conflict is the only thing that can cause Israel to lose is the United.
I mean,
States.
one phone call can stop
Yeah.
it. So this farce that
Well-
the Democratic Party is saying that we're working on a ceasefire, when out of the other side of their mouth they're saying, we will stand
we'll
behind
24
Israel.
hours a day. Yeah, right.
And we'll give them whatever
Yeah.
they want, and we're going to take your tax dollars. We don't have money for education. We don't
the
have
phone-
money
the-
for health care
the phone-
because we have to give it to Israel.
The phone call isn't even to tell them to stop. The phone call is just to tell them we're not supporting you anymore.
Yeah.
Right? It's like try to do this without our bombs. Try to do this without our
They couldn't.
diplomatic cover. Try to do this without our interceding with all of your neighbors. It's like, if Iran knows that the U.S. is not going to be drawn into a war, Hezbollah knows that the U.S. is not going to be drawn into a war. If all these people know, it's like, hey, green light, guys. You and Israel. Go
Yeah.
at it if you like, right? Israel would
If it was
stop in
a
a second,
fair-
right?
Yeah.
If the U.S. wasn't around, Israel would have no
Wouldn't
chance
exist.
in any of this. Yeah, no, it wouldn't exist at all. It would have been over a long, long time
Yeah.
ago. All Israel has to do, all the U.S. has to do to stop this is do nothing.
Yeah.
And it refuses to do nothing. It has to constantly give
Well,
tons
listen.
of support to Israel.
Not only does it do nothing, not only does it continue to fund them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's your ally for whatever reason, even though they're the ones that have been spying on you. They're the ones that have been doing
Right,
whatever,
right.
But let's say they're their ally. But they're also bullying other countries that are trying to stand up for freedom and justice, that are
Right.
saying we need to stop this genocide. I mean, the entire United Nations would vote for something, and it
Right.
would be the U.S. as the exception,
Right.
and because they have whatever clout they have,
Permanent
they're-
member of the Security Council. They
permanent
get to
member of
veto.
security, they
Right.
get to veto. So you have the entire world basically condemning, or at least saying, hey, we need to have a ceasefire, and you have the United States who's claiming to want a ceasefire,
Vetoing the
basically
ceasefire.
basically vetoing it. So
Right.
it's just
I
it's
mean,
just a joke.
It's the diplomatic
Very
cover.
sick
It's
joke.
the constant propaganda. It's the
Yeah.
military aid. It's the intelligence. It's sending the fleet there. I mean, it's they do a 100 different things, and if they stop doing all those things and just like sat out.
And let me tell you, what's the excuse? So the excuse is always Israel has a right to self-defense. Israel actually doesn't have a right to self-defense. Israel is an illegal occupation. According to international law,
Right.
it's Hamas who has the right to resist militarily or armed struggle, has a right to armed
Right.
struggle against an illegal occupation. Israel does not have the right to its defense against an innocent population.
Right.
And in fact, not only do I would go further to say not only does Hamas have an international legal right to armed struggle, they have a responsibility, and they feel that responsibility. And on top of that, because Israel is an illegal occupation, they actually by law have an obligation to protect. Which
Yes,
is what
yes.
they're not doing. So these are all things, and if we want to bring this down to like what's law and what's not, it's them violating international law. It's the United States violating their own national laws. If you look at the Leahy law, we shouldn't even
Right.
be sending military aid
Right.
to
No, that's-
Israel
that's
based on
true.
what they're using it for.
Yeah, I think I saw. I mean, someone like Kathy Kelly will talk about the Leahy law. People in the Win Without War coalition will talk about the Leahy law. I saw someone actually put in a list of like 10 domestic laws that we're violating by arming Israel right now.
Yeah.
Right, because there's so many different restrictions, and we're just casting them all aside. Right.
You know what stinks here is, at least in Britain, I believe it is, you have a right to escrow your taxes if you feel
Oh.
that the government is using it for something that's not
They'll come
lawful.
after you.
You can escrow your taxes so the government won't get it. We need to set that up here.
Well,
but the problem is, if we did that, the United States would be bankrupt
Yeah.
because
Well, we-
we
Yeah.
fund so many wars and conflicts that.
Well, we did have a show on tax resistance once, so you can go back in
I
the
need to go
archive
back
and look at that one. Yeah.
Because I feel uncomfortable paying taxes. I mean, obviously, you have to pay your taxes, but I honestly do it regretfully because it's like I'm paying taxes, and that money is going to kill my own people. Like,
Yeah,
how do you
yeah.
feel comfortable, and how do you sleep good at night?
Yeah,
doing
I mean,
Right.
most people will get away with it to some extent, which is why it still happens. But I would not advise you necessarily to go.
No, I mean, listen,
No.
I
Don
believe in
Timmerman
that.
on
I
that one.
believe in, obviously, I believe in paying taxes because that's what keeps, our country going.
what
That's
keeps
what
a lot of
allows us to
social
build our
programs
infrastructure.
and-
That
yeah.
that's what does so
Yeah.
much stuff. But if you travel abroad, you will realize how behind the United
Oh,
States
yes.
is. I had a discussion with someone, and I was making the comment. We were talking. I said, we're the most advanced country, and he stopped me. He said, "What do you mean we're the most?" I mean, obviously he had a point. He
Advanced
said
in
we're
what
not.
way?
He said we may be the most wealthy country, but we're not the most advanced. I said,
well.
point taken. You're
Well.
right. But if you
And
go
we
to
may
other
not
countries,
even be the most wealthy.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, in the sense that
Yeah.
we're a strong whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
country.
it's like they're the. I think what is the ASPI report came out last year that showed like, 36 different or 64 different technologies in the future, and like the U.S. was number one in 7 of them, and China was ahead in 57 of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's
There you
it's
go.
it's crazy. But you know why? I mean, go to Japan, go to just different countries. Why are they so advanced? Why are the streets so clean? Why are they so everything better than here? Because they don't spend money on military and spending on
We
other
spend
countries.
an-
They take our tax
a
dollars, they
lot
send
on
it
military.
on military and sending it to other countries that are committing atrocities, rather than spending it on the people here, on the people paying the taxes. We're the ones who should be reaping the benefits of the taxes, and we're not.
I would give a slightly different analysis to that, but I won't say that isn't a factor. I think that is important.
All right, guys.
12 minutes
12
left
minutes.
to do the mural.
Okay, I will tell you. So I put the mural up. Mural got vandalized with some paint. I honestly believe the woman that did that. It was so funny because she she's a self-proclaimed artist, and I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. That's just what I heard. That
So
they're
why
saying,
does an artist destroy
well,
someone
that's what,
else's
and she was
art?
wearing a Frida shirt. So I'm like, like
Oh, my.
it didn't make any sense. So I wasn't upset with her actually, and I even said, I was telling the media, I said, I'm really not upset because she just brought more attention, which in turn is going to bring more awareness. But I would have loved to have had a discussion with her. I understand. Okay, maybe the swastika triggered you, but did you really look at the work? Did you look
Right.
at the whole piece
Right.
to understand what the
the
piece of
message
art
was.
and what the
Yeah.
message was? But that was that. Then, actually, community member, wiped some of the paint off or cleaned some of the paint off. And I was in Chicago that Friday evening when I think it was the Journal or one of the news stations called and said, it's clean now. I said, I had no idea. And they sent me a picture. And then the following, I think it was Saturday night after the Common Council put out a press release, Zionist individual started working, trying to tear down panels or whatever. He had an axe, a sledgehammer, hammer.
Oh,
I mean, it
my.
was crazy. It took them quite some time, and they finally figured out. And we hadn't finished securing it. Had I finished securing it, which I was going to do today, actually, he probably wouldn't have been able to get it down. But he was able to, and then he went back the following day to finish off taking some more panels. So the police have identified him. That's going through that. But ultimately, the problem was you had the funny thing actually is the Jewish Federation in the Journal article said, oh, we're not going to try to have even though they were against the mural, we're not going to try to have it taken down because it's on private property. But in fact, that morning they were on the phone with the mayor, with the police department, trying to have it taken down. When they realized that they couldn't, they want to put out this thing to act as though they actually care about freedom of speech, which they don't. So, then the Common Council, I'm sure by pressure of some of the Zionist influence, comes out with really, if you read it, it looks like, I don't even want to insult a child, but it looks like a child wrote it. And so I can't take that seriously, especially
what
because they
type
never
of
even reached out to me. So I did put out, media had contacted me to see what my response was. I hadn't even known at the time that they came out with the press release. So they sent it to me, and they're like, we're going on air in 10 minutes. Can you get us something? So I sent them a quick response. TMJ4 actually published it in its entirety online. But they're making.
If people want to see it, they could look
They
it up.
can read my response, and I'm sure they can read the press release. But even prior to any of them seeing it, prior to the mayor seeing it, I'm sure they were just told swastika, so they were immediately demanding it be taken down. It's like you don't make a decision unless you see something, But of course, these politicians are your typical politicians that
Well,
the older people,
nowadays any criticism of Israel is defined as anti-Semitic.
Well, yeah,
so
and-
it's like you just can't criticize
But
Israel
listen,
like that.
not anymore. The
Yeah.
people have started to not value that label anymore because they've overused it in ways where it didn't apply. So they're actually hurting themselves. I feel like the Zionist community is promoting anti-Semitism more than anyone else. I mean, they're promoting the anti-Semitism against them because, one, they're labeling or trying to label people. People don't care anymore because they know it's just, a bunch of BS. But also, you're claiming anti-Semitism on people, but at the same time supporting a genocide. So now you have people critical of you because they don't support genocide. That's not really a trendy thing to support.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so
One
that's
would
what's
hope it's
happening.
not.
I mean, you had these statements from the ADL whitewashing the Azov Brigade in Ukraine. It's like these people are like literal Nazis. So they're like they're,
Well, I mean, just compare-
they're
let's compare the
the
Ukraine-
Waffen SS, and it's like well, they're okay now.
But this is how short-sighted though people are. Like
Yeah.
you like so many people jumped on the Ukraine bandwagon immediately.
know.
Okay, this has been going on for 76 years. Exact same thing, but times like a million.
Right.
But all of a sudden, it's okay because people of color are not considered equal. And if you look at all over the world,
Yeah.
if you look at Africa, if you look at Sudan, if you look in the Congo, currently what's going on there, you look
Right.
at the Palestinians, you look
We tried
at,
to have a show in the Congo. We wound up talking about the Sudan the entire time.
but I'm just saying, it's people of color are not treated as equal people, unfortunately. And
their lives are not valued.
their
as
lives
much.
are exactly
Right.
where our lives are not valued, and we will not stay silent, and we will not be intimidated. We will not be deterred from our mission to fight for justice for all, and we're going to continue our fight. It's been going on, and it's unfortunate. You said earlier, I mean, we wish we didn't have these fights, and
Yeah.
and hopefully one day, that time will come where we don't have these fights. But as long as we have, big businesses, military-industrial complex, and racist organizations like the Jewish Federation, like ADL, and things like that,
Right.
we're always going to be dealing with conflict.
Quick last question here. What are your plans for the mural after that? Are you going to redo something like that or do something else?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So I actually have the artists, because there's a couple artists that have been working on my pieces. So they're actually working on another piece that's going to be going up there. That piece,
Well, I mean, the first piece is all over the internet, right? So the
Yeah.
first piece is viral anyway.
Yeah,
So
so
now, now because of them, they're going to have another piece that's
they're
going to
going to
go
have
viral.
another piece. So we do have another piece that's going to be going up in place of that, and I'm probably going to be duplicating the one that got torn down, but on a different media,
Okay.
and it will get placed somewhere that's less accessible.
Okay.
But we'll see.
Makes
sense,
yeah.
I gave the Common Council an option if they were so bothered by it. Not that I really care what their opinion is, but I'm also looking at it and saying, okay, if you want, let's, you don't want to contact me to understand, what the message was, because I know they're not competent enough to understand it on their own if they saw it.
Well, I mean,
I'll
it struck
give
me
them
before that your
options.
other murals have brought people to the city to spend their money in Milwaukee. You've been good for the city, right?
I mean, people have
Yeah.
like
You know,
that. Those murals, honestly, like I've seen them on national media.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
Did you get
outlets.
city grant money for that? Because they have.
No, this is all.
You see now they
this was
have
all private.
grant money to put up murals, but they didn't give you any money. You
Yeah.
did it all for free. Benefited the city of Milwaukee, something that they normally pay people to do, and this is the treatment you get.
I swear. Maybe I'll apply for a mural grant for my next mural.
You should,
'Cause they're
though. I think you
costly.
may have a little hard time getting it after this.
But listen, at the end of the day, I just ask everyone to keep your mind open and don't get triggered by what's in it. Art is supposed to sometimes make you ask questions.
Definitely.
Art is supposed to sometimes be controversial. Take the time, understand the message, and if you don't understand the message, ask questions. That's the whole point of me putting these murals up, to bring awareness, to get people to ask questions so that they can better understand why, it was put up in the first place.
Right. Okay. If people want more information, where should they go?
Oh, I'm sure they'll see whatever on any news station or social media. I mean, what I may do if I get a chance is, like, as we start putting more murals up, putting QR codes if I get a chance. I'm not very technologically savvy, but I have a bunch of people that are willing to
I was
help.
gonna say, ask the young folks.
Yeah, they know. They're all like, hey, we'll do whatever you need us to do. So we'll probably get like QR codes that we'll put next to the murals so that people can scan them.
Okay, I bet he was trying to rush us to a conclusion. We still got like another minute.
Oh, that's fine.
I
we
mean,
can-
it's
we
only a
can-
minute.
Yeah.
You know.
So, I mean, I think I would just go back to the whole understanding that, and to understand that the point of the mural isn't to divide. It's when people come out and say, oh, it's divisive, or oh, it's causing problems in the community. No, it's not. There's no problems. It's you making the problem. And the Common Council did that with their press release and the wording of their press release. But I think the people of the community all believe in social justice.
I don't know. I have to leave it there. Thank you again
All
for
right.
being on the show.
Thank you.
Ihsan Atta.
Thanks, Ihsan.
Thank you.